Your whispers are getting softer. Your shouting is getting harsher.
Welcome back to another episode of the Purple Pod. My name is Steve.
I'm Ken.
I'm Cody.
I'm Keithen.
I hope everyone is doing well today. We're going to be talking about K-State's win over Troy yesterday, 42-13. We had a lot of fun yesterday. K-State starts 2-0. Hope everyone is doing well. We are going to be talking to Keithen Valentine, former K-State running back. Let's talk to him and see how he's doing. And if you guys don't know who he is, can you just give us a little bit of bio about yourself, Keithen?
Man, Keithen Valentine, I played running back from 07 to 09. That was Coach Prince last year, Coach Snyder first year back. Like you said, I played running back originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I'm still in the area working with the railroad. But, yeah, that's a brief little summary about me.
Okay, so I figure we'd all ask a couple of questions before we get into today's pod about K-State's win yesterday. I had a big question I wanted to start off with. What was the biggest difference playing for Coach Prince versus playing for Coach Snyder?
Man, despite everything that everybody thought about Coach Prince, dog, he was a real smart guy. He put together a good staff, but the big difference was just like discipline of the whole, the whole program. Like, I just think that he was an X and O's guy, and he was in the shadow of Coach Snyder. Coach Snyder still had an office, and I think that kind of unraveled him. And I think he had a lot of problems that you guys might have heard. And I think the biggest part was discipline and respect amongst like the coaches and the players. A lot of toxic stuff was happening around there. But man, Coach Snyder, Hall of Famer, he ran a tight ship. The first thing was about respect and discipline and just fighting to the end.
Absolutely. I had another question I wanted to ask you about. So you played with Colin Klein when he was still a wide receiver. Did you ever think that he was going to be a Heisman Trophy finalist at quarterback?
No, man. Like, he played tight end and receiver when I was there, but he still was like the fourth or fifth string quarterback, right? So no matter what, they gave him 2 reps on offense, and no matter what, I don't care if he just blocked and caught 20 passes, he was like, hey, give me my 2 reps. You know what I'm saying? Now, he always was a good dude, worked extremely hard, and had a real belief in himself. Not Heisman, but I knew he would have been great in whatever he did. So you could see it early on as a young dude, man. He always put in work. He always was respectful and always, he knew he was going to be great in something, whichever position it would have been.
I've got a question. Other than Jordy Nelson, who was your favorite player to play with?
Man, honestly, I'll give you 2. B. Banks and Daniel Thomas. Daniel Thomas was so humble, dog, and it was just a good dude, dog, and a hard worker. And B. Banks just had a heart of a lion, man. He was so talented. If he was 6'1", even, he made it to the NFL. He'd still be in the NFL, and just crazy. Them 2 are my favorite 2 players.
Absolutely.
Cody, you got a question for Keithen?
Yeah, I was going to ask him who one of his favorite players was and ask about Brandon Banks, but you already covered that. So the only other person I was curious about was Josh Freeman when you were there. How was it like playing with Josh Freeman, a former NFL quarterback?
So when I first got there, I know I heard a lot of stuff about him being a Hollywood guy. I'm Josh Freeman, blah, blah, blah. But when I got there, he had started turning around and being real mature, man. He was a good dude. He always helped me with stuff, So when I got there, he you could tell he was a first rounder, man. He just the way he put himself in the playbook and the way he took care of himself off the field. So when I was there, man, he was a good dude, man. You could tell he was an NFL quarterback.
I got one more question. What was your favorite game that you played in? Whether it be like you having a big stats day or just like the game itself was just super huge. Like what? Maybe both. Like what would you say?
So I'll give you two then. Like, so the first one was probably Oklahoma on Halloween night. Weird backstory. Daniel Thomas, he was banged up. I think his shoulder might have been hurting. So it was this kid that followed Daniel from campus to his house, recording him talking to his dad about, man, my shoulder hurt. I don't think I'm gonna play, dad. Blah blah blah, and just they took the whole the whole conversation with Daniel and his dad on the phone, and they gave it to a reporter. Just, young kid thinking that he had breaking news. So OU got a hold of that, and OU, man, they were like dirty. They were going for it. They was gonna go for his shoulder. And Coach Snyder didn't like this talk about injuries just for that reason. And OU just got all over it. So Daniel didn't start. So I'm gonna start against DeMarco Murray, Gerald McCoy. They just put in the new grass in Norman on Halloween night. Man, they had guys dressed up as like, hey, Jesus can't even save K-State, and I'm gonna start against this Big 12 powerhouse. And I actually had like 2 touchdowns. Daniel didn't play; he probably played like 1 snap, and it was a close game. It got maybe might got away like a touchdown late, but we stayed in. But in Norman on Halloween night, man, I had a good game, even though Daniel didn't play. But the best game, I think, as a whole, was when we played Texas Tech. They had Ryan Tannehill at receiver, I think, and Johnson at quarterback. And that was when we beat them so bad. That's when Tannehill was the quarterback, and that guy never played quarterback again at A&M. So that was a big game. We upset those guys that night.
I knew you were going to say those 2 games because I went back and I watched your highlights today as I was about to cut the grass. I was like, let me pull up some Keithen Valentine highlights. And I saw you scored the first 2 touchdowns against Oklahoma, had that huge win against Texas Tech or Texas A&M, 62-14 or something crazy like that. You had a couple touchdowns there, and then Colin Klein caught a touchdown as well. The game that I want to talk about real quick before we get into yesterday's K-State game was you were part of the team that started the 14 straight wins versus KU. You guys won 17-10. I was a student. Cody was a student. I believe you're only a year or 2 older than both of us. That was an amazing game. After losing to KU 3 straight times, I think everyone is hungry for K-State to finally win. And you guys not only won, started the streak for K-State to win 14 straight.
So, man, I honestly wish I could have played with Coach Snyder like 1 more year, man. But at that point in the year, that's when we started buying in, right? Like Coach Snyder just came in. We hated it, The first practice was we ran in like -degree weather because he said, man, I watched all your games, and you were in a lot of games, but you just didn't finish. So, everybody was like, man, everybody talk about this Hall of Fame coach. We hate him. He just implementing his rules, implementing his discipline and all that. But by the time we got to that KU game, we started figuring out, like, man, he know what he's talking about. If we play together, if we listen to what he do, we gonna do well. And by the time we got to that KU game, man, that's when it was locking in, it was sinking in. And KU was still pretty good, man. They had Stuckey still, they had a bunch of good players, and they were still rolling, man. And you could tell that we just, that pride jumped back in, all right, we got to beat KU. We're tired of letting these guys beat us. So, it was just, that's when you could tell the switch started flipping, and you could tell that Snyder was about to start another one of those historic turnarounds.
That's awesome. All right, so we're going to start talking about yesterday's K-State win, 42-13. I want to pull up the box score here. Before we do that, though, I want to get everyone's initial thoughts, overall thoughts on K-State's win yesterday. We're going to start with Kenny. Kenny, what were your thoughts on K-State's win yesterday?
Well, my initial thoughts were we need to bow down to the prophet, Steve Berkland over here, who literally was almost damn near perfect on all of his predictions. He predicted that it was going to be 42-17, ended up being 42-13. He had his eyes on Phillip Brooks, and guess what? Phillip Brooks had probably the player of the game nominee here. Like, like he had his eyes on the right players. His predictions were spot on. Steve, you're a damn prophet. Okay, like we'll just have to say that right from the get go. That's amazing. I will say that my eyes were on Austin the Machine Moore, and he actually had an amazing game that last night. So there's that. But overall, hey, 2-0, you can't beat that. Obviously, Troy, a much better team than SEMO. We also talked about the run game being being their strength, and they would have to adjust their game plan for K-State, because Kansas State right now has arguably, I would say, the best defense to any rushing offense. So, and we only held them to like what, 70 yards, like 70 yards rushing. I mean, that is a rushing offense team. Like that is what they primarily focus on. And we only held them to 70 yards. So I would say that's even more in favor. Like that just goes to show even more in favor of like K-State showing how strong they are against the run. That's all I really have as an initial thoughts. Steve, you're the damn prophet. Cody.
Well, you mentioned it when you said they only gave up 70 yards. 46 of those yards were on that one play. And if you take that out of the equation, they still haven't given up 100 yards on the season total as a rushing defense, but it would be like about 30 if you take that one play out. So I thought the defense really showed up. You talked about Austin Moore and his 2 tackles for loss, and he was everywhere. And just as a team, I mean, the defense is what was most impressive in this game. Sure, they gave up a couple of one-handed, incredible passes, but as far as that, 48 total tackles, 30 of them were solo, meaning K-State guys were making one-on-one plays, tackles in the open field when it mattered. Then those 2 fourth down stops on 4th and 1 with Austin the Machine Moore on the first, and then I can't quite remember on the second right off the top of my head, but the defense really looked good, and I was really impressed. The stats may say they gave up, 13 points, but that's all right with me.
Oh, I had one more. I had one other thing really quick. We actually got to see we were able to see the 2 new players coming in. We had gosh dang, I can't think of the name right now. The Keegan. We had Keegan finally. Yep. Keegan Johnson finally showed up, and then Siegel on the defense showed up, and he was making some pretty big plays early on as well. So I wanted to throw that in there. That I thought that was great to see these guys come in.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask Keithen about it because I know he was there as well. I saw him post a picture on Twitter. What were your overall thoughts being at the game yesterday, Keithen?
Man, I always say, I don't know if you see on Twitter, I always say it's hard to win football games, man. I don't care what kind of caliber team you're playing, but I think I had overall feelings you guys had, man. A win is a win. It looked a little clunky. It didn't feel like we beat them by that much, but they're improving and they're working on a lot of things, man. So I was satisfied. That team looks like a mini Mizzou to me. You know what I'm saying? Rely on the run game, athletes on defense, do a lot of movement and stunts on the line, run happy team, and play action and passing. I think K-State did good, man. They're doing better. I got some more thoughts when we go into deep dive on each side, but I liked it, man. I seen some good things out there.
So my overall thoughts were it was a great win, right around what I said. I said 42-17, and it was I was the closest, and even better, K-State held them to less points than I said. It was a great team win. There was some frustrating moments throughout the game, specifically that second quarter when Troy had a couple of really nice drives, some incredible catches by them. But they played really well, and hats off to them. But K-State they were just a better team. They had more dogs than the other team did, and just overall, I thought it was a great win, and I think it was a great team to play right before you play Missouri next week, and we'll talk about that later. But okay, so now I want to talk about the K-State offense. Will Howard was probably the player of the game again. He had 3 touchdown passes, 1 interception. He had 250 yards passing. He also had 2 rushing touchdowns, 33 yards rushing. Overall, great game.
He's a passing quarterback, by the way.
He is a passing quarterback, but he can run the ball a little bit. Phillip Brooks led the way of 7 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown. He also had a rushing touchdown as well. Jaden Jackson scoring a first touchdown of the game again. They said it was the first time since Darren Sproles where the same person scored the first touchdown of the game in both the first game and the second game, which is crazy to think about. The only other person is Jaden Jackson. But he had a nice game. Trayshawn Ward had another nice game. He also had a touchdown. Overall, really nice game from the offense, despite them, I feel like personally, not playing their best, specifically in that third quarter of that great field position. I want to go to Keithen first because he former K-State player, played on offense. What were your thoughts on the K-State offense and really maybe even the running game, who had 147 yards rushing on 38 carries?
So, like I said, offense looked a little clunky, man. I think one thing about Will Howard, I was on another podcast a while ago. I said we're going to have to protect Will from himself with the running game. And I think they will, because he can make every throw, and he think he can't. He can make it. So, that can hurt, help the team. And I think sometimes he just like to get it going. You know what I'm saying? And he'll force a couple things. So hopefully he could get that cleaned up. But the O-line, if you look at it from just like the surface, the O-line and the running game and just period, you would be worried, But let's think about it. Right? So they've been playing with lineups probably since camp. So the good thing about O-lines, if they could play together, they get this, this continue they could play together, like, you know what I'm saying? By the person on the side of you just get a feel. But once you keep messing with that lineup, I think that's what's kind of hurting them right now. But I think they'll figure it out, because when you look at some of the run game stuff or the blocking, it's like one person are off a little bit. So it's just when they get that set lineup, I think they'll be all right. So and Troy did a lot of a lot of movement stuff because they were undersized, undermatched. So and their linebackers just flowed and feel pretty good. So yeah, man, I think the offense, they're just working through things. And Klein didn't throw a lot of stuff out there, man. When he needed it, you see he'll dial up stuff. And a lot of stuff in the run game too. They're trying to figure out what this year O-line like, what these running backs like, what Giddens like, what Ward like, because they had plenty of film with Deuce. They knew exactly what plays he liked. They know what plays to get in. And then last year also, we were a big play team, even the running game. Deuce it wasn't like 200 and 300 yards rushing every game. It'll be big play here, big play there. So I think they're still figuring out what plays. Like if you look at DJ, I think somebody asked me like, man, is he tipping? It's like, no, he's a downhill runner. Don't give him the slow developing plays. Don't give him the plays you would give Ward. Ward is a guy that could cut on a dime. So they still trying to figure out and see what they're working through some things, trying to figure out what's the perfect plays for us. But when they need to dial up, when they need a play, man, they call it and we'll hit a pass, or the run game, you can see it rolling. So like I said, I just think they're I think overall they're in a decent place. Not that as fans we shouldn't worry about, hey, this O-line, this the beef. They got T-shirts made after them. We should be rushing for 200 yards against SEMO and Troy, but they just working through things and playing against some decent teams. So I think offense will be all right.
Kenny, looks like you're ready to say something. Or Kenny, your thoughts on the offense? Like I could tell you're ready to say something about K-State's offense.
Well, again, so you had already pointed out that Trayshawn Ward was the guy that you wanted your eyes on, and then Phillip Brooks on the receiving end, and both of those guys really put out this game, which is really impressive. Because again, what Trayshawn was just already saying, he was, or sorry, not Trayshawn. I'm reading the dang players
Keithen.
on the screen. Yeah, Keithen, my bad. So as Keithen was saying, like the offensive line, that like you got to get that locked in so you can get the chemistry right. I was, when I was in high school, I played the line, and having the guy, the right tackle, because I was the right guard, having the right tackle, and him and I just being on that same wavelength, it actually makes a huge difference. And like knowing like how you guys play together, how to get the splits right, how to play with the splits and stuff like that. that's all part of it, like all part of the mind games. And if you are on the same level, then you can really make some magic happen. So I agree with what you were saying there. It makes a lot of sense as far as like getting the run game down. But man, overall, I mean, 6 touchdowns, man. Like we were popping off. I mean, obviously it was a little rough in the early part of the game. I mean, it was pretty consistent. 7 the first quarter, 14 second quarter, and then we repeated it in the third and fourth quarter the same way. Yeah, they really shut down RJ Garcia. That was the guy I had my eyes on. He wasn't able to really catch the long ball too often. They were covering him pretty fierce. Overall, though, I think we played really well offensively. Will Howard, I mean, you could say that you could argue that he's player of the game. I still think Phillip Brooks played out of his mind. But Will Howard getting those 2 touchdowns, like I said, passing quarterback, by the way, but he's rushing these he's putting up some good runs. So I think that's something that and he's a monster too. He's not like this, he's not like this average quarterback size. I mean, he is 6'5" or something
6'5",
like that?
242.
Yeah, he's a monster. This guy, and he can move. It's pretty impressive. So yeah, you just like to see it. I'm really impressed by this offense. It's really, really awesome. But obviously, like, we're more impressed with the defense. We're not going to get to that point, but we're going to get there. But the offense, I think they're just solid. It's good to see Keegan Johnson again. I want to point that out. It's good to see him in the mix as well. So that's all I got. Cody. So
yeah, so I was impressed with the final score. There were some touchy points there to end the second quarter. We've only given up 1 touchdown in 8 quarters of play. So I was hoping it would stay perfect, but I'll take that right now through 2 games. Obviously, that is a much improved defense. And they were already pretty solid last year. Now, the thing that I think is overlooked right now, but I want to kind of touch on it, was Steve's guy, Philly Brooks is what they call him. Will Howard calls him Uncle Will, or
Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil.
Uncle
It's like
Phil.
the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reference.
Yes,
wow,
the Fresh
you really
Prince, yeah.
dropped it there.
I did. But anyways, 135 yards now in his career for Phillip Brooks, 7 catches in that game, a rushing and a receiving touchdown. I was really impressed with the senior, and he showed why he belongs on that starting lineup.
Are they asking too much of Phillip Brooks? I mean, he is not only playing basically every single snap on offense, he's a kick returner, he's a punt returner. Keithen, I know you returned some kicks as well and obviously played offense as well. Are they asking too much of Phil, or do you think he wants all those reps?
Well, all of us want the reps. But it is a lot, right? It's a lot, but things gonna start loosen up, I think, for him when Keegan come. They're gonna start getting Senate involved. Like I said, man, Colin, that he's a little bit in his bag. When he really get in his bag, he's gonna draw plays for Keegan, Jackson, the running backs. The lighten the load. But he's a veteran player. He can handle it right now. It'll start divvying up.
Okay, all right. As a running back, I just wanted to ask you: do you prefer one over the other? I know that you, like, even though you were kind of a smaller back, when I was watching some of your highlights, they ran a lot of power with you, which feels like a little bit more like DJ Giddens. But I feel like you're a little bit closer in size to Trayshawn Moore. Do you prefer one running back over the other, or do you just feel like it's a good K-State has both of them?
Man, I really like both of them. Yeah, Ward is more like me. We ran but I like both of them, man, because you need it, man. I was screaming for them to get somebody involved when Deuce was there, man, because I didn't like him getting all the carries. But man, I think we got a good 1-2 punch. But yeah, I prefer the style with Ward. But man, you got that big guy, number 31, look like he's like 4'4", 4'3", like 230, man, get downhill. I like them both, man. I think we'll be happy to have both of them.
Absolutely. All right, so now let's turn our focus to the defense. The defense held them to 13 points, only 1 touchdown allowed so far this season. They also had their first interception by Will Lee on a really, really nice play. It almost looked like he was running the route for the receiver there. They did give up some yards. They gave up 216 passing yards, but they only allowed 70 rushing yards to a team that ran for 342 yards a week ago. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. Kenny again looks like he's ready to pounce out of his seat. Kenny, your thoughts on the K-State defense?
Dude, Austin the Machine Moore coming up massive there. Also, can't overlook Khalid Duke with the 2 sacks. Kobe Savage coming up big as well, man. And then we also got to see who I was just looking at him.
Marquis Siegel.
Marquis Siegel. He came in and he was making some big plays. Cody already kind of went over it. In the last 8 quarters of football, we've only allowed 1 touchdown. That is so impressive. Still, like, it blows my mind. This game was definitely a defensive highlight through and through. Austin Moore, Will Lee with the interception. All of it's like really impressive. The D line, they them boys, man. I keep saying it over and over. Like, they them boys up there. They're just like causing all kinds of havoc. There was one really massive play when Uso pretty much got handled, and then that allowed their quarterback that just ran.
Yeah, Kamani Vidal, the running back.
Vidal just went and
46
had a crazy run. But one play where Uso got bested, that just goes to show that like they're holding up like pretty much the whole game, man. They're solid. They held them to no points first quarter, second quarter. Yeah, they let them, let by some really good passes, some really amazing catches, honestly. And then third quarter, shut them down again. Dude, this defense is amazing. Like they are truly, truly amazing. So I'm just excited to see this, man. This game was really won on the defensive end, just defensive side, just like the first game.
Absolutely. Cody, I wanted to get your thoughts on the K-State defense as well. They had 4 passes defended. It felt like Jacob Parrish was kind of getting targeted a lot in that first half. But in the second half, he came out and he knocked down a bunch of balls. He was all over the receivers. Your thoughts on the K-State defense?
So the first thing I'd like to point out about the defense is I like to give players nicknames. But there was one I heard online that Matt Walter said that really got my attention, was the Macho Man Kobe Savage. I'm going to have to start using that because that was a good one. I was trying to come up with a nickname for Will, but instead Will Lee, the Wildcat defensive back, had an interception. So I'm going to start calling him Willie Wildcat. I saw that one online too. So I'm just going to start using some of those names. But yeah, the defense, Khalid Duke, he's got his hooking them with the 2 sacks. We had a forced fumble to end the game, which really helped because that last 3 minutes and 49 seconds in the second quarter was awful. We had them pretty much shut down, and then we give up those 10 points late. Luckily, our offense was able to get that long play from Phillip Brooks with Jaden Jackson blocking down the field, taking care of 2 defenders to get them in the end zone when it looked like they were just trying to set up a field goal attempt. So Austin the Machine Moore, he continues to impress me. And as a team, 9 total tackles for loss. That's incredible. And I'd just like to know, Steve, a little bit about what you think that as far as this linebacking core went. I know you're one that likes to be kind of very critical on the DBs, and rightfully so, because we did give up some hard middle of the field plays, but there's nothing we could have done about those 2 one-handers, the one that went for a touchdown either.
No.
That was just good defense.
I agree.
There was nothing we could do about that. Well,
what I like to see is that all 3 starting linebackers are in the top 5 on the team in tackles. That's beautiful to see. Awesome Machine Moore, he is such a great linebacker. Jalen Green had probably one of his better games. And in Purnell, he played a lot. Like, it felt like they played the starters a lot. Like, a lot. I do want to ask Keithen, though, about his thoughts on K-State holding them to only 70 yards rushing, including the running back. He had 83 yards rushing, but as a team, because of sacks, the way they do stats, they only had 70 yards rushing. Do you think that was kind of a frustrating day for that running back from Troy?
Oh my goodness, man! If you go back, I watched a little bit of his last film. He was running crazy. He had gaps open all the time. K-State made it real dirty in there, man. If you want a running back like that, has good vision, good burst, and understand blocking scheme, you just make it nasty for him, and you make them think, make them hesitate for a bit. And I was at the game, kind of like field level, and they were making it hard for him. That one person just. That's all it takes is one person to miss their gap and you're out the window. So it was impressive that K-State was able to, stay on the line, and the defense and the linebackers and the lineman was able to give him fits, man, because they were everywhere. And K-State was in man a lot. And we gave up those passes, but they made those DBs just play man a lot and getting their run fits, and I think they did a good job. They gave up a little bit, but man, if you put some guys in man that long, that much, they're gonna give up a bit. And he had to make great passes. But yeah, man, they did well against that running back, man, because he's not just a slouch, that O-line and that running back, they have a good running game and a good scheme.
Absolutely. And I was, like I said, I was at the game as well, and I'll be honest, I was getting kind of frustrated in that second quarter when they were passing all over us, making one-handed catches, and then I don't know. Were you as frustrated as I am being at the game in person, seeing what they were doing with the passing game there in the second quarter?
I was, but I felt like K-State at that point, all right, we want to give our guys some work in man and just simple scheme, do what you got to do. They wanted to take away the run. All right, we're going to take away the run. We're going to make this guy pass. So if he's not pinpoint accurate, then he's going to make a mistake and we're going to get a pick. You saw that. We could have had like a couple picks, I think.
A couple of them, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it was frustrating, especially when the offense was sputtering a little bit, but you knew K-State was like, look, we're going to put it in their face, simple defense, and make him make passes, and we're just going to take away the run. Because if we would have gave him their run and play action, then, we would have been behind a little bit. So it was frustrating as a fan, but you knew that what the coaches was thinking, like, hey, I'm going to give my guys some work in man-to-man, and we just going to, continue to evaluate. And I think they did a good job by bending that break. Coach Snyder used to love that. Bend, don't break, take away one thing and see if they could do the other,
Absolutely. Any other thoughts, guys, on the K-State defense from yesterday?
Just want to point out that we made 4 sacks again this game. Troy's only getting 1 sack off, I believe. I can't really remember off the top of my head. I think it was just one sack that we had. But we had 4 sacks again. Like second game in a row where we've gotten, 4 sacks on the quarterback. We're pressuring these dang quarterbacks, man. That this offense these offenses are going to have a hard time against our defense, our defensive line, our outside backs, man. Like it's going to be dirty going forward for other teams.
And I don't want to sound pessimistic because I think we don't want to overlook the fact that Will Howard had 5 total touchdowns. And as a team, we almost went almost 400 yards. Although we were kind of rusty at spots, I think overall I would have given them an A for the way they performed in this particular game because they were able to cover the points at one point. It was 50.5, then it became 54. And K-State was able to cover with that final touchdown with time running out in the fourth. But I wonder if that might have been a mistake because it seemed like Will Howard came up limping after that. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Yeah, I tweeted right away. I saw him limping, yeah.
Oh, no.
So we didn't need that touchdown. I was curious why the offense was still on the field. So that's something to keep an eye on because if Will Howard is not healthy, it may change a little bit. I know Avery Johnson had a good 2 first series as a Wildcat, but I don't know if he's quite ready if something is wrong with Will to come out and start against UCF or not UCF, Mizzou or UCF if he can't play 2 games or more. So I don't know. That's just something to keep an eye on, especially with Mizzou next Saturday. I'll be there for that game.
Well, I just
got to stay healthy and I'm worried there's nothing to play for at that point. So go ahead, Steve.
I was just saying, I had no idea why the starting offense was out there. 3 minutes left in the game. K-State's up 3 touchdowns with the ball. Like, why would you not get in Avery or maybe even Rubley to see what he can do since Avery played.
They had a reason. They had a reason for it. It's something about burning the red shirt if they like it, because he can only have a certain amount of games where he plays or something like that.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I just didn't understand. Like Rubley doesn't have a red shirt anymore. Like just play him. Like he already had his. He can play as many games as possible. Put in someone else other than Will Howard, so no one gets hurt. I don't know. Were you frustrated by that, Keithen?
I was, man. Even if you want to keep Will and hand it off to somebody, you know, like you guys said, I don't think Avery is ready. I do believe in Jake Rubley. That one game he came in, I think he got something. I think he's pretty well, but man, we want to start our starter. You know, we don't want him banged up. So I didn't get it, but you know, they get paid way more than me. But it was a little frustrating seeing him take it in instead of, you know, letting the running back pound it in.
I gotcha. All right. Now I want to just take a look really quickly right around the Big 12 here. Look at some scores.
Big freaking games that happened this weekend, man.
Yeah.
Holy crap. The horns. Yeah. Turn them upside down.
Here we go. All right. Let me pull up the
You talk about Kansas beef. Hopefully we can go into Texas and turn them into Kansas beef.
That'd be nice, right?
Cook them.
Cook them horns.
All right. So KU started off the weekend winning 34-23.
Boo!
Boo! I hate them too. We all do. K-State won 42-13, obviously. Texas was probably the biggest win of any team so far.
Alabama, they played themselves, man. They played themselves. There were so many dang penalties. Like they had like a touchdown, called back because of holding, called back because of like, you know, pass interference. It was like all these huge plays. It was like almost 100 yards of like penalties that they had against themselves. Like they played themselves, man. It was crazy watching that game.
And talk about another game. Sorry to interrupt where you were going, Steve, but Oklahoma did not look very impressive this week when they put up 73 last week. At one point, it was still 14-11 going into the fourth quarter. So they actually had to pull away late to even make that look more of a respectable win. But
the games that you got, the games that you, Cody and Steve, you had eyes on was that Oregon and Texas Tech game.
That was
having
wild.
Texas Tech lose to Wyoming and then turn around and lay another egg to Oregon.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that was a crazy game for sure. Baylor almost beat Utah as well. Baylor was up 13-6 with like only a couple minutes left in the game and ended up losing 20-13. Oregon wins at Texas Tech 38-30. Oklahoma beats SMU 28-11. BYU beats Southern Utah 41-16. Iowa with some offense. They actually got some offense now. Only 13 of it actually came on offense. 7 came on defense.
They're always trolling the Iowa team, Steve.
Iowa beats Iowa State in Ames 20-13. West Virginia takes care of Duquesne 56-17. Cincinnati with a nice win against Pitt 27-21. UCF with an ugly 18-16 win against Boise State. Houston did not look good in its loss in overtime to Rice, and then TCU beats Nichols 41-6. And then Oklahoma State, the game that Kenny was talking about last week that he wanted to see how Oklahoma State would do, they ended up winning.
I watched that game, and it was on super late. I watched that game. They had no business winning that game. Arizona State had so many opportunities winning in the fourth quarter. Like they just completely dropped the ball. I mean, like they should have won. They should have won. I mean, it was like any better team in that position would have closed it out and won the game. I could not believe how close it was and how lucky they were to be able to pull that win out. It was unreal.
Cody, was there any game that you looked at this weekend and you thought, man, that was a crazy game, or that was a really good game, or
the fact UCF only won by 2 points coming into this week? They were power rankings. They were third in the Big 12, and they had to get a 2-point win against Boise State. And I know we got them coming up in 2 weeks, so I may not be as scared now with UCF coming to town as I was before. Central Florida, Disneyland. We'll see.
Keithen,
Disney
I
World.
wanted to ask
Disneyland is in
Disney World.
California.
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
Disney World.
Keithen, I wanted to ask you your thoughts on any Big 12 game that stuck out to you, especially.
Man, all of the games, I would just looking at the whole landscape of the Big 12, man, nobody's a finished product. I think, even though like our two games maybe was a little shaky, but I think, you know what I'm saying? We got a chance with all of them. I did watch that Texas and that Bama game, man. That wasn't the same Bama. All those penalties, that's supposed to be the standard, right? All those penalties and everything. And Texas was able to handle it. But man, nobody looked perfect out there. So I think it's up in the air, man. We just keep getting better and we're gonna be all right. But yeah, it was some wacky stuff going on in the Big 12, man.
Absolutely. I will say, if K-State plays that Bama team in a Sugar Bowl, K-State beats them. K-State absolutely beats them.
Their quarterback looks so disoriented.
He's like, not Bryce Young. That is for sure. Bryce Young was putting balls in spots. I've never seen a quarterback put balls in spots like that.
Okay,
like,
that could be taken a really wrong way, Steve.
You know what I mean? Like, he was throwing in crazy balls in that Sugar Bowl. K-State played against the number 1, number 3, number 12, and 45 drafted players just in that game. They're all gone. Completely different team. That quarterback for Bama, he has no idea what he's doing, whether he wants to run or pass it. Like, I don't know. I agree with Keithen. Like, I feel like no one is a finished polished product right now. Like, they look good one week and not good the next week.
But credit to Texas Longhorns, even though it kills me to give them credit, their passing game, that game was unreal. Like, who's that superstar? It's like Wilson or something like that. Like, number 5, I can't remember his last name. It starts with a W. Dude, that guy's a monster.
Oh,
he was
Worthy.
What's
Xavier
that?
Worthy.
Was it Worthy?
Yeah. No. I think it was something else.
The running back.
Hold on. Let's see. He's got him pulled up here.
Is it a receiver, running back? What position?
I think it's a receiver. Oh, Mitchell. I'm sorry. It's not W. It's the upside down W. Mitchell.
Yeah.
Dude, that guy is crazy good.
Yeah.
Like, he was catching some crazy balls there. Yeah.
Yeah, he got that. Yours got that deep ball touch. He's been working on that, man. He was dropping in the bucket.
Yeah. He was. Wow. And I will give credit to Sark. Like, he has a pretty good game plan for big games. And like, he may not win them all, but he's got a good game plan for sure. And they looked good. And I'll tell you what, I was watching the Pat McAfee show during the Texas Bama game, and he had Matthew McConaughey on there. That was pretty good television. Yeah. McConaughey's a huge Texas fan, and I don't know. I thought he was pretty funny when they were scoring touchdowns, including that bomb of a pass. It looked like a rainbow for sure.
It was crazy.
I will say the score that stuck out to me, and I hate to say it, I really do hate to say it. I cannot believe KU won 34-23.
Yeah.
Like, I really thought they would either lose or win by 1 or 2 points. Like, I did not expect them to go up 34-7, I think, and then Illinois comes storming back. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be like any more than they were last year, winning maybe 6-7 games. But I don't know. That was actually a pretty impressive win to me, honestly.
It definitely was. They got some draft picks on their defense, and that offense was rolling. But that OC is great, man. But another thing too, KU is in full prove-it mode. So it's not no vanilla defensive scheme, no vanilla offensive scheme. They're pulling everything out of the. You know what I'm saying? They
are.
Yeah, they trying to blow out somebody every week. So they really they're really trying. Like, you know what I'm saying?
They're trying to fill the stands because they didn't even sell out their game against Illinois, which is kind of crazy coming off their first bowl game in 15 years, and they got another Power 5 team coming in from the Big Ten, and they couldn't even sell out their stadium. So I do agree. I feel like they were throwing everything they could out there on offense, and they got some players. Their receivers are pretty nice. Obviously, Jalen Daniels is pretty nice. That was a pretty impressive one, even though I hate to say it. I absolutely hate to say it for sure. I'll tell you what, though. If you would have asked me before the season if Baylor and Texas Tech would both start 0-2, I'd say, nope, I'll put $100 on the fact that they won't start 0-2.
It's blowing my mind.
Like, it's crazy to me that both of them are 0-2. Absolutely crazy to me. Anything else that stood out to you guys this past weekend in the Big 12?
Not in particular, no.
Okay. All right. Well, that is our episode talking about K-State beating Troy 42-13. Make sure you guys are liking this video, subscribe. I think 90% of our viewers are not subscribed, so please make sure you subscribe to our channel.
That is a huge problem.
That is a huge problem. We're getting some viewers, but we're not getting enough subscribers. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel. We really appreciate it. Keithen, I appreciate you so much for coming on the channel and talking some K-State football, man.
Anytime, man. All fun. It was great doing it, man.
Absolutely. And this is our first time chatting. Like, I've talked to you a bunch on Twitter, but never in person. So this was a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good, man. You guys talk good football, man. It's a good time, man. Y'all keep going.
Appreciate it. All right. Well, I'm Steve.
Hold on. So I got some stats here, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
I got some quick stats for all those people that love stats. So we said the word absolutely 11 times. We said the word incredible 2 times. We said the word amazing 3 times, and we said the word insane 2 times. Those are some stats. Those are some stats.
Some analytics right there, man. They need to get you in the staff up there at K-State.
Hey, real quick, Keithen, I wanted to ask you, what was your major while you were at K-State?
Oh, I was in mass comm, man. I got a master's in IT management, but I ended up the railroad. Family needed benefits, you know. But
so
yeah,
you had the same degree as me and Cody. Like, I don't ever remember having any classes with you. So Cody,
well, see, I couldn't see. That's the thing about when you play sports, man. I had to minor in it because if it fit in the schedule, you couldn't go to class and you wouldn't graduate. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I know Shaylin Lenning was in a lot of our same classes.
Yeah. Yes, I remember Shaylin Lenning was in our classes. And this was right after she graduated. She had like 1 or 2 classes left she needed to take to graduate. And she came back, and there was this kid in our class. I don't remember who it was. It was a kid that did that like flash mob at Hale Library that year. But anyway, she comes in wearing like all the K-State basketball stuff. And he asked her, he's like, so do you play for K-State or something? Not knowing that Shaylin Lenning. And she goes, yeah, I'm in the WNBA.
Right.
Yeah. For the Atlanta Dream. Yeah. She was a dream.
I just remember cracking up because everyone else knew who she was, obviously.
Right.
That was pretty funny. Oh, shoot. All right. Well, that's today's episode. I'm Steve.
I'm Ken.
I'm Cody.
I'm Keithen.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. And as always, go Cats, baby.